Good morning. Well, these microphones work well. See, technology is already getting better. I would like to call to order our special Board of Aldermen workshop on our communications and technology. This is an exciting time for the city, being able to progress as we move forward in communications among ourselves and with our citizens. I would like to call on Alderman Lowe Davis for our invocation. And in particular, let's think about peace in our world, peace in our city. What's happening in Ukraine right now is devastating to the world. So, Reverend Lowe Davis, please. This will be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Almighty, all-loving, all-merciful God, we thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed upon us and on this city. On this day, we ask that you guide us as we learn ways to better serve our city. And we ask also that you give us strength and courage to be examples of peace and courage in this world. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Davis. And courage is important, and as we move forward in peace. I see on our desk here another sign of technology for us, and I would like to show you what I use every month. This is for our citizens as well. I make copious notes. As you can see, lots of notes, I'm sure you do too, highlights as I go, and then it's tabbed. And so I go through, when we go through our agenda, I'm looking at each page. It's probably the third or fourth time I've looked at it. And so we're going from, I'm assuming this to this. And so I want, for me personally, I'm gonna have to put this somehow into this. Or I may need some part of this printed as I do the meeting. The analogy I have, and I'm looking forward to this. This is what we should do. And I want to thank Eileen. I want to thank the communications department for putting all this together. Lisa, Randy, Randy and I, we've been at this for since 2019. We've been trying to get to this point. And the communications that we've tried to put out. I know the city manager and I have had long discussions about the communication within our organization, as he calls it, within our city government, and this is very important, and this may hopefully enhance that. The last thing I will mention is that at the hospital, we were paper for years, decades, and then we went to a T system, a computer system. So the paper we were using, they put into a computer, and so initially, the doctors were going, we can't use this. We want our paper. But once you get used to using that computer, you don't want to go back. None of us want to go back to using paper again. So I'm assuming with Eileen's encouragement and instruction and that type of thing that we will succeed in this process. So I'm looking forward to this meeting today. And I'll City Manager, if you'd like to make a few comments, and then we'll go to Ms. Hennessy. Okay, all right. Ms. Hennessy, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Eileen Hennessy, and I've been the IT consultant for the City of Southport for over 20 years. So really, most of you know me, but to the new faces, I say hello, because I haven't had a chance to meet you. I am so excited to present your new Surface tablets this morning. Today I'm going to be going over how to care for them and use them. Recently, you received a new email address, which came with the Microsoft Office web license. Hopefully, you've all been using that, but by reviewing your accounts, I see you could probably be using them more. Yes. Okay. Thank you. No problem. All right, so I'm going to review a few of the Microsoft applications. And these computers are going to give you a dedicated system to do all the work you do for the city. I feel the best way to learn new technology is to use it. So this morning, we're going to do some hands-on training. Dory's going to work with the portal, and you guys are going to jump right into it. So for Thursday's meeting, you're going to be ready to go. So I hope everybody has fun, and let's get started. It's just a list of what we're going to be going over today. It's on your paperwork. All right. What is a Surface tablet? It's a hybrid laptop and tablet. It can do everything that your desktop computer does. It's based on the Windows 10 professional operating system. I know we have 1 or 2 Mac users, but you will be able to adjust. I'm fairly confident you'll be able to use it. It's going to primarily be used to access your email and the Civic Board portal, but also you could do your Word documents, Excel, etc. Each tablet has been individually configured for your accounts. So I did a lot of the work in the background to make it as easy as possible for you guys to get up and running today. All right, let's talk about the tablet itself. Let's get familiar with it. I'm going to show you where everything's located. On the right-hand side when you're looking at it, you're going to have a mini display port, has a full-size USB port, the micro charging port, a micro SD slot in case you needed additional memory. You see your headphone jack, and on the back, it has the camera. It also has a kickstand, but we've put all these into cases, so you don't need to worry about that. All right, the USB port. You can plug any USB 3 compatible device into it, be it additional memory, camera, etc. It's also going to be the port that you use to charge the keyboard. And I will show you how to do all that. All right, power and charging. Very important that you do not try to put the power charging into the display port. I know it sounds like the thing that would never happen, but the first time users do it. So now it's time to get your hands on it. So your tablet's in the case. Let's everybody open up the case. You have your power chargers. Did you swap laptops? Ah, I got you. I swapped the paperwork. I didn't get there yet, Gordon. We're not powering on. Nobody's powering on. Okay, so right now we're just talking about charging. Everybody can unwrap their power cord, please. All right. You'll see the power cord. You want the cord to go down, and you're going to plug it into the side of your computer. I'd like to see everybody do it. I just got to get something.
I've got this.
Here you go.
Oh, okay.
It looks like.
This is it, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. And I want you to do it because it takes a little practice. Make sure.
The funniest thing I've ever watched.
What do you mean? It's a thing. I will show you that. Yep. Exactly.
Why do they put 2 USB ports?
That would be awesome. They do make that, actually.
Is this one for
Nope, that's the power. You got it. All right. So if it was actually plugged in to your brick and your brick was plugged in, it would have a white light. So you'll know that you're connected properly when the light comes on. So, yes, Gordon. Yes, you do. Thomas isn't here today, so you're going to be using his because I'm using yours. I didn't get one, but I have been enjoying Gordon's. Okay, so the keyboard. I've been using Gordon's for a while, and I have yet to charge the keyboard. But to show you how, you plug the USB 3 into your tablet. I want everybody to do that. And then you plug the mini into your keyboard. Yes, ma'am? You have two cables. There you go. Yep, that's the USB 3. And then this end goes into there. I know it seems kind of silly to review all this, but I want everybody to know how to do it.
All right.
That's there.
Okay, now where's
Then
this?
this one goes in here.
He's got to do it.
Oh, sorry. And the little one that goes in.
Yes. There's going to be no more printing. Everything's digital.
Irene,
Yes.
so I assume we could, instead of plugging the
Yes.
keyboard charging it here, we could just
Plug
charge
it
it into some
into-
other charger. Or
Yes. John has a good point. The keyboard can also be charged through any USB connection. But as you notice, the cord is a little bit short. So, right. Okay. So you see when you plugged your keyboard in, you got a red light. So it's actually charging. You did not get a red light. Did anybody? Oh, you're not powered on. You won't have a red light if your computer's not powered on, which it's not supposed to be powered on. Okay, everybody can unplug their cables. That was just practice, and you did pretty well.
Are these the same keyboard?
I recommend using the charger that came with the tablet to charge it. You could use the other cable, but it's not going to charge as quickly. Okay? All right, let's talk about the keyboard. Keyboard is optional that we added for you guys. It attaches magnetically, and it makes your tablet more like a laptop. So to connect the keyboard to your tablet, you simply go like that, and it connects. You don't have to disconnect it if you don't want to. The touchpad on the keyboard acts as your mouse. The lower left-hand corner is going to be the left click, lower right hand is the right click. And let's talk about the pen. Let's take the pen out. Everybody feels the pen. The pen's going to give you the ability to actually take notes on your tablet. Battery, it's a strange quad 4A. To replace it, you simply unscrew the top, take it out, put it back in. 2 buttons on the pen. The upper button is going to be the right click, if you ever need that, and the lower button is going to be the erase. Upper is closer to the top, lower is towards the bottom. So if you look at here, low, right click, up. Okay, we're ready to power on.
Well, do you have my pen?
Does she have 2 pens? You don't get 2 pens, Lo. Okay. All right. So most of you have got your tablets open. How do we power it on? At the top, power button is in the upper left-hand corner. Then it's followed by the volume buttons, and just so you know, it has a front-facing camera and microphone. And on the side is your Windows button. So if everybody just touch the top button, it's going to have the Surface splash screen, and it's going to power on. I'm going to go through the rest of my information, and then we're going to get to more hands-on, okay? So it takes a minute to come on. We're not going to worry about it. We're just going to let it come on. All right, let's talk about caring for your Surface. Your Surface, being a tablet, is a touch screen. So the screen will get fingerprints. The keypad will get fingerprints. How do we take care of it? Best thing is a cloth with warm water. Just wipe it down. Never spray anything directly on the screen. The screens do have glass protective sheets over them, so if you maybe dropped it, it may protect it. And when you're not using it, close the cover. Keep it out of direct sunlight. Ultraviolet lights can damage the screen, and heat can always damage any electronics. We're going to talk about logging into your computer. When it comes up, you have to wake it up. So you either tap on the screen, hit enter, you'll get the logon screen. At that point, you put your PIN number in. Everybody's PIN is on the piece of paper that had the agenda of what I'm going over, has your system information and your passwords. We're not going to log on right now, but when we do, that's where you find it. Once you log on, you need to connect to Wi-Fi, be it here, be it at home. How do we do that? In the lower right-hand corner, you have the wireless icon. You click on that, and we're going to do all this, but I'm just going over it first. And then you select your wireless network and give the password. The web browser we're going to use is Microsoft Edge. Edge, you know, you can use on a variety of devices. You can get it on your phone, your tablet, your desktop. Your web browsers, once you get in them, I have configured them to open 2 pages. One is the Office, and the other is the Civic portal. And then you can open how many tabs you want from there. Outlook, I hope everyone's been using Outlook. We're going to go over some of those points today. Well, you're going to use it today, Lo. OneNote. It's a digital note-taking app that provides a single location for keeping all your notes. In OneNote notebooks, you never run out of paper. Notes are easy to organize, print, and share. You can search and find important information quickly, even if you forget where you originally put it. Your notebooks can be stored online in your OneDrive, so you can easily access them anywhere you have internet access. In the OneNote, you can take handwritten notes, drawings. You can convert your handwriting to text, insert images, and actually put audio files embedded in them. Your OneDrive. I recommend storing your documents to the OneDrive. It's a great place to share documents, but also it's information that gets backed up daily. So if something unforeseeable happens, I could probably retrieve your data for you. OneDrive is cloud storage offered by Microsoft. It's as safe and secure as it can be. Everyone's accounts are password protected. We have a government license which has additional security implemented into it. So I'm confident in storing my documents on the OneDrive.
When you say you can share documents, so we go back to the OneDrive, and then take that document, I want to drop it into email, send it to someone, that type of share.
We're not going to do that anymore. That's how you used to do it. Here, you simply put your document in a shared we're going to talk about shared space. We're going to put it in a shared folder, and if you give them access, they can access it and edit it, and it's one file in one location. If you just want them to be able to read it, You just send them a link to that file. So you don't, no longer you're attaching files to your email. You're just gonna say share, say who you're gonna share it with, send that email out. They have a link they click, and they get to your file.
So if the mayor puts all his notes on that, I could actually go in there and view all of his notes?
If he allows you to, if it's in a shared location. So he has his own separate space, but it also has space where you guys can share information.
I'm sorry, the space we don't share?
Yes, there's space that you don't share. Everyone has their own individual OneDrive, and access is only granted if you give it. Zoom meetings. I'm sure all of you are in Zoom meetings. Your tablet will be a great place to use that. It has the front-facing camera and the microphone plugged in. You get your invite, you go to it. You can either go to the web browser to get on the Zoom, or you can download the Zoom app, like you've all done before. All right, thank you. Who's ready to get started? Yay! All right, let's log in. How do we get it to wake up? We tap enter. Did you turn yours on?
It was on at one time. It had a picture on it.
Set it up like that, makes it a little easier to use. So I just woke it up by pressing the power button. And now everyone can enter their PIN. Your PIN is located on that sheet of paper that I handed you. Everyone logged in? All right, let's connect to the Wi-Fi. How do we do that? Wireless icon down at the bottom. Going to bring up your network list. You'll see one called Community Building. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, this thing.
That thing's so small, but
Okay, first, your keyboard's not connected?
Oh, it has to be on that thing.
It has, yes, because this is just like
Okay, got it.
not Bluetooth. So it has to be connected if you're going to use your, but also it's a touchscreen. So it's on your sheet. I want to go here. This is your network list, community building. So again, you can use your finger, you can use a pen, you could use the mouse, but really with the touchscreen, that seems a little bit easier.
I think so too.
And say connect. Now, the password is, can I say that? The wireless password is Southport. I'm sorry, the password? To connect to the community building Wi-Fi. All right. If you don't have the wireless signal, you may have something that looks like a globe. That is also the same networking. Did you connect?
So,
Here?
do that. What I can, that's like
Yep.
that
Okay, where's your pen?
Okay.
So, I mean, you could use your mouse to get there and click,
Okay,
and then you're already connected.
okay.
Okay?
But you hit that to get to that, for
Yep.
that to connect. Okay, got it. Okay.
Okay. Is everyone connected to the wireless?
So it automatically connected.
Yeah, because I did yours. Any? Are you connected? Yeah, you're good. Great. Are you connected to the wireless, Lo?
I don't know.
All right, let's just check. We're gonna go here. Did you put in Southport all lowercase?
Uh-huh.
And hit enter? All right, so now that it says disconnected, you know you're connected.
Okay.
All right, you know how to connect to wireless. Let's go into your web browser, Microsoft Edge. So that's the little icon at the bottom that looks like that. Again, you can click it with your finger, you can click it with your pen. You can use your mouse and double click. It must look like this, right? Oh. So you've opened Microsoft Edge and you have two tabs open. One is the Microsoft Office tab and the other is the Civic Clerk. The tabs are at the top.
Which one do you want us to go to?
You can close that.
This one? Microsoft Office?
Microsoft Office Home, yep.
Here comes salvation.
You're right. Yeah. That's where you're supposed to be.
Good morning and all this stuff.
Yes. So this is your Microsoft Office homepage on the web. You've opened your web browser and that's where it goes to. So from here, you can get to all the Microsoft applications. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the 9 dots, and that is always what will give you a shortcut to the Microsoft apps. But you see on your left-hand side, the icons of all the applications. So let's click on Outlook. It's an O.
Touch the wrong thing.
You're all right. All right, so Outlook is this one here. Yep, there you go.
You know, Outlook doesn't work on my old Mac Air.
You won't need it anymore because you have this. New? Yes, ma'am.
Email. I'm not
Yeah.
100% comfortable with being in his email.
Okay. Well, you don't need to be in it then.
Yeah.
And this, again, is just for example.
Okay, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're fine. You don't need to go through this. You know how to use it. Right. Okay. Yes.
So when I'm at home and I get this,
Mm-hmm.
how do I refresh the screen? I keep having to go up here and go back into it. There has to be a refresh button
That
somewhere.
right there?
This thing?
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
That is the refresh button.
thank you.
You're welcome. It's a little circle. See, that's why you get seated close to the teacher. You're good. There's your email. Well, okay,
So I was,
so you're here.
no, I wasn't even there. I was at, when I clicked this, it showed all the ads and stuff.
Show news and stuff.
Yeah. When it first
I think
came
we're
on,
on a different one, maybe.
when I clicked on that, it gave me
Oh, yeah,
ads.
look, see, it's got different
See,
screens.
oh, so I should,
Let me just get rid of that. I'm not sure why that
so,
came up.
so if I want to come to this, that'll come right there.
Yes.
Okay, all right,
And then you got to Outlook by pressing the O.
here,
Yep. But it's already open. But you can
Oh,
open
okay.
it again.
all right.
I'm not opposed to that.
So that's how you get to it, all right, okay.
Yes. All right, so I created a group. Well, actually, I didn't create a group. I modified a group that was called Board of Aldermen Mayor. It's been, a group for a while, but nobody's really used it. So you recently received a welcome message to your email that said, "Welcome to the group Board of Aldermen." Did anyone click on that and do anything with it? Okay, so now in your Outlook, you'll see down below you have groups in the lower left-hand corner. If you click on the Board of Aldermen underneath that, that is where your shared, emails that go to the entire group are going to be stored. So not only is your inbox getting mail, but you're also getting mail to your shared group. As you can see, it's been since December anybody has used that group, but we're going to start using it now.
I didn't know.
Okay. Right. Yep. So he already clicked on it for you. So again,
okay.
and if you find that keyboard is, you know, kind of a hassle, you can always use your finger. So if
Yeah,
I'm just going to
typically,
click inbox, that's your regular inbox that I'm in right now. And then if I scroll and I go to the group, click on Board of Aldermen there.
Okay.
And those are the emails to the group. Okay, a shared calendar. I don't know if you guys are doing anything with the calendar, but it's a nice feature. If you click calendar in the upper left-hand corner, it's going to bring up a calendar. On the left-hand side, there's a little button that looks like a calendar. Yep. Lo, were you able to get it?
Should actually see that.
Changing text size.
I'll
It's too small. Did you change the display size?
yeah.
Yeah. To lower res? Yeah. Okay, so you have a variety of calendars. You have your own personal calendar, but you also have the Board of Aldermen calendar. So if people are scheduling things in the Board of Aldermen calendar, this is where it goes. So I scheduled a meeting for all of you, and there it is. But if I turn the calendar off by unclicking, I'm only going to get my calendar. So you can have multiple calendars, but Board of Aldermen calendar, where you guys could schedule meetings and everybody knows what's coming up. All right. Let's talk about.
If Karen puts a meeting into the thing, will I get an email and tell me that, or do I have to check it?
No. When you schedule your meeting, you're going to schedule it to the Board of Aldermen calendar, but then you're also going to invite the Board of Aldermen group. So everyone will get a message that says, Karen has a meeting, will you attend? And then you say accept, and everybody can see who's coming and who's not coming.
And when you add something to the calendar, it does that automatically? I mean,
You have,
something will pop up and say
Yes.
invite.
yeah, it's just like sending in the email, okay? In the upper right-hand corner, if we click on the 9 dots, it brings our menu for our Outlook apps. Let's look at OneNote. Okay, OneNote is, I like to think of as my 3-ring binder. You can have multiple notebooks, and you have multiple sections in your notebook. Is everybody able to get into OneNote? Yes?
So the one that says Richard Alt, that is, only I can see that one? Or can
Only
everybody see-
you can see all this. This is all you.
Okay.
Okay, this is not shared information, this is just for you individually, okay? This is your personal notebooks, yes. Okay, so if you want to create a new notebook, how do you do it? At the top, you see an icon that says new notebook with a plus sign. You can click on that. Let's do it for practice. Give it a name. Name it whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call mine recipes. So now I have my notebook called recipes. Is everyone creating a notebook? Yes? Okay. In my recipe notebook, at the bottom, you can add a section or you can add a page. So if my recipe book was going to be very complicated, I could do dinner and add pages to that. But I'm just going to have my recipe book just be all my recipes. So I'm just going to, actually, I'm going to add a section. Let's click on add a section. And I am going to call this one dessert, because that's what I'm known for. If I could spell. Okay, now give your section a name. Whatever you want to call it. Okay, so once I'm in my section, I have an untitled page. To give it a title, you just type there in the top line. Again, I can't type. You get the idea. And then you can start your note. I don't think I can write on this, but I think that you guys can write on yours with your pen. This is where I'd like you to actually write with your pen.
You create a new section.
Yep, so you're in the mayor notebook
Yeah.
and say add section.
Add section.
Give it a name. So you want to call it,
Okay. That's the first part of the
so that's a section in your notebook.
section. Okay.
Oh, but you probably have to hold it down while you do it. Yeah, okay. I have
Sometimes it's easier to write in your notebook if you lay your
the tablet down.
tablet flat. You don't worry about the keyboard because you're going to be writing, right? Are you holding the button? There you go.
Oh, do I hold the button?
Don't hold the button because you're going to erase. Okay, tablet info, great. So
Notice it's blank.
So you have a section called, you created a section called more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this
Under
is-
extras.
Yep, and this is our tablet info page. So you could take notes. But your pen.
Okay. And-
But you can type.
Let me back up. How do I get to this again?
How do we get to it? Great question. It's open right now, but I'm going to close it.
Okay.
I'm going to close that. So how do we get to anything? Is a good question. So you're in your Microsoft Home.
Okay.
You can get to it here. Oops, I clicked on it for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I got it.
Or anywhere you have those 9 dots, you click that and it will bring the drop down of applications. It brings you to the Microsoft Office homepage, right? Which is where you are. You are currently on the homepage,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Okay, that was a very brief OneNote. I'll be sending you links to where you can go online for more information, quick tip, tutorials, etc. All right, let's talk about the OneDrive. I'm going to go OneDrive. So you can close your notes, your OneNote. Maybe. You can just go like that
Oh,
to get
okay.
rid of it.
Got it.
And you go back to your Microsoft Home. It's right underneath the Outlook icon, and it has the clouds on it. Right under the O, and it has the clouds on it.
So you don't want
OneDrive,
OneDrive is,
under the O, has the clouds.
oh, the cloud. Okay, OneDrive is the cloud.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so the OneDrive is your cloud storage location. You all right? You okay?
What,
Where are you?
Where am I?
Get started with Microsoft Edge. So your Microsoft Home? Yeah. And then go to Outlook. Okay. OneDrive's, right now I'm logged into the community building site. So this is where we store our documents, but also your notebooks go there. And you can access this information anywhere you have internet access. So just when you're going to save, is everyone familiar with File Explorer? There is an icon that looks like a manila folder on the bottom of your screen. If you click on that, if I can't click, you click. Or use your finger. And once you're in File Explorer, on the left-hand side, you should see your OneDrive folder. So right here is your OneDrive.
So I go back to that.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep. And again, just showing you where things are located. If you have more questions. Robert, how did you change your size to be bigger?
Oh, I don't really know.
'Cause it-
I changed it back because,
Yeah, because it
didn't
doesn't,
match
you
yours.
couldn't see.
yeah.
So-
I hit system,
And then you increased the font.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But when you're zoomed in, you don't see the whole screen.
that's right.
Yes.
What is the little cursor next to these documents?
Okay. So if you were, where'd you get all those documents? Oh, you did that at home. Yeah, good. I'm glad to see it. So, Rich has actually used the OneDrive, which is nice to see. And he's brought, when he looks at his documents on his tablet, he sees a little cloud next to it. And that is because those documents are stored on the cloud, not on the tablet.
Okay.
So if you wanted
Yeah,
to,
but that, I see the cloud, but what's the little guy to the right of the cloud?
are you sharing that document?
I didn't share anything with anybody. Unless you mean I dropped it into an email.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you gonna be on emergency on
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes. Uh-huh. Okay, so that was my brief introduction to your tablet and a little review of the Office apps. But Dory's going to get up and she's going to talk about the Civic Clerk, and we're going to continue to be online and look and use it so you guys are ready for Thursday. So we're just going to transition the microphone, her presentation, and we'll be good to go.
It should be the last one. You see mine? Yes, thank you.
That goes to the next slide. Okay.
Oh dear. Okay. 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 So I think you saw this screen on part of Eileen's presentation as well, but this is what it's going to look like when you access the board portal for the Board of Agenda packets. Is that saved as a...
Actually, it's a tab on your browser, so if everybody could just click on the board.
So she did save it as a tab on the browser?
So when you open your browser, it has a
Yes, no, that's part of the presentation, but once it is posted in the portal, you will get an email notifying you that it's there.
Okay, I pre-configured everyone with their username and password. Username is your email address, and the password is on your individual piece of paper. So you can, and I've saved it, so you can just click login, get into the portal.
Do you see your?
I've seen that red circle before.
Yeah, she said she saved it as a tab.
Oh, okay.
So your information's already preloaded in there. You can just hit sign in. Sure, you can go ahead and sign in. Lo, do you have some? Karen, you need some help?
Touched something down here and it went everywhere.
Okay.
So then
So,
I had this. More, maybe some more.
let's see.
Maybe
She
that
says
is
she
more.
saved it. Click on that for just a second.
The star?
The one right there. Yep,
There we go.
Civic Clerk.
Cool.
And there you go.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm. Is everybody else in? Okay, thank you. Okay, so your information should be saved and you would just go ahead and log in. Once you log into the program, you're going to see all of the board packets that have been put in the board portal. So this is one that I played with last month just to see how it was. You still have access to that, and if you clicked on that, it would take you to the packet that was posted last month. And then March 10th, I've already loaded our new meeting up there as well. When I took this screenshot, I had not loaded your training for today, but it is on the board portal now, so you should have that as well. Okay, so you logged in?
I am. So I was, okay, and I'm logged back in. And I got richest products and available products.
Okay, hold on, let's see. So click on that. Click. You're going to click on the Civic Clerk Southport icon.
Yep. And I got nothing there.
Go to meetings.
And that's
Why
what
are you not?
I don't know, that's because I was there already and that's what I got.
He says he doesn't have access to the meetings module. Okay. We'll have to work on this on the back end then to make sure it works, because it's not. Or yeah, we'll work on that. For the time being, I'll show you how to use it, so then when we actually get to it, I wonder if there's a way that was saved on. So you're gonna, anyway, you click on those icons, whichever meeting agenda that you want to view. Because we're having some issues, I guess, with the software or how it's connected to your tablets at the moment, you won't actually be able to play with it today, but I'm going to show you how to access it, and then when we move forward, I'll just show you individually on Thursday if we can. So this will pull up, this will populate once you actually are able to get into the correct program. And then it's going to take you, regular Board of Aldermen meeting, it's going to have the date at the top. You're going to have a tab here that says packet, and the other one shows agenda. If you just want to look at the agenda itself, you would click the agenda. If you want to look at the whole packet, you would just click the blue button that says packet. And it's going to pull down all of the sections that are in the agenda packet. These little dots on this side, there's 3 little dots in a row. If you click that, it's going to pull a different screen where you can actually take notes for each section, and you can see the attachments for that section and things like that. So it says use the blue buttons at the top to figure out which section you want to go to, and then the little dots to view that section. And then at the bottom here, there's always this tab here at the bottom, agendas, minutes, notes, and media. So if you want to see the notes for all of the sections together, you would click that. Mm-hmm.
Will that paragraph at the bottom continuously show up because you don't use it every day?
No.
This is my one shot to look at it.
You will have, you're going to have this whole packet for training. Everything that we go over today, you're going to have access to a copy of it.
Well, that paragraph helps remind me when I go back to it, but I want to do it.
Sure.
But will that be on that page when I bring it up next time?
No, because this is my creation. I typed that in on the PowerPoint. So, but you'll have a copy of the whole presentation for today. So if you need to go back to it, you'll have that ability. Let's see. I went back the wrong way, my bad. Okay, so when you click on those little dots, it's going to pull this section up here. Review, attachments, notes, and speakers. So then you can review each item by clicking the attachments. You can see the notes that you have written, or you can take notes in that tab. And then when you click on the notes tab, it's going to bring you to this big screen here. And that is where you would actually use your keyboard. The stylus doesn't work in it, but you can use your keyboard to type any notes for that particular section, questions that you have to ask, and you know, when we're going over that section or not. So. And then if you want to see all of the sections that you've taken notes in, do you guys have questions? Do you all have questions? No? When you want to see all the notes that you've taken for this particular meeting, you're going to go down to the bottom tab, the one that I showed you earlier, and click Notes, and it's going to pull every subject, every item that was on the agenda that you took notes on, and then you can see all the notes cumulatively, or you can select one section to go to view those particular notes as well. Let's see. And then you can also see, as best we can, what department is presenting, who's sponsoring the item, that sort of thing. And this was just taken from one to look at the example. And then you can see all of the attachments that are with that item. So this particular annexation is on our board meeting Thursday night. So that's how it'll be listed, each little item there. So you've got the memo, the preliminary plat, and then the ordinance that you'll be considering.
We can't actually do this. Will there be an opportunity to walk us through?
Absolutely, I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to. If there was a video or some sort of media that was going to be shared during the meeting, there is an option to attach that to the actual portal so that you could view it ahead of time. And then you can also pull up your account settings, and when you log on eventually, there's a little like wheel looking thing. That's your settings key, like a lot of software, a lot of programs are. You click on that and it'll give you your email preferences, and you want to select that you want to receive the emails when there's new content published, that you'll get notification that way.
When you say there's going to be a video, are we in the process of setting up timelines for presenters they have to have the information in like 5 days?
Yes. Absolutely.
So all of their presentations and their charts and all those things will come to us on this, so we can actually see it before they stand up here.
Should be available, yes. In certain circumstances, you know, it may not be available. We would just show it as a PowerPoint on here, but more, I would say 99% of the time, we're aiming to have all that material up front before we post it on the portal, so you'll be able to see it first. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, you'll have access to all of the packets that have been published in the program, and there'll be a list as well that looks similar to this, but this is actually the public portal, I'm sorry. On our website, on the city website, there is going to be information, there already is information about the new software that we're using, and a link on that you can click and sign up to receive notification when new information is posted. But you'll also be able to view all of the board packets that have been posted. So anybody at any time can go on and click it, and then be able to view the whole packets that we have posted and the whole packet that you all have received as well. The only information that we would not make public is if there was information or content for a closed session. Of course, that would be limited to just you all. So the Vibe board that we have is a fantastic tool, but the point, I think, or the purpose of it is mainly to enhance our viewers and our public's experience during the board meetings so that they can see everything that we're looking at. So from now on, you'll be using your tablets mainly to view everything. You'll be able to zoom in on maps and access everything that way, and then the Vibe board would be mainly for the public to use. As it is now, the board agendas, the information for the board agendas, I'm asking Wednesday at 5 o'clock because the program we use, Civic Clerk, it takes 24 hours to upload onto the portals. In order for it to be available on Friday for you all, I'm requiring it to be posted on Thursday. So I've got to have all the information a little sooner. The public portal, it is up to you all. I had some questions there for you. We can either post it at the same time that you all have the information, or, you know, out of respect for you all in your positions, to give you a weekend to review everything before the public has access to it, we can set it up to be posted on Monday before the meeting. So that was one question that I had for you all. And then also, I can't really show you an example of it, but the department reports on your, well, I can't really go back. On the portal now for the board, every department report is listed separately so that you can click on just that report. I can continue to do it that way, which would show up a little bit longer on the actual agenda, or I can combine all the department reports and just put them as attachments. So I wanted to see if you all had any preference of that, but it's hard to have a preference when you can't see what I'm talking about. So we can come back to that later. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Okay. Okay, good. So we can go back and look at it a little bit better if you want. Okay. You have today's. Yeah. So today, once you're in there, you will have access to today's packet of information, so you can follow through with exactly what I'm looking at, or we're looking at on the screen as well. Okay, so once you do have it pulled up, just went to sleep again. You can select which board, so it's a special workshop today. You can click on that. Should be able. There we go. Yeah. Might be better to use your finger for some of that, I think. But that will take you to the agenda itself, and then you can either click on agenda or a packet at the top, like shown here. That's what I was saying at the end. The website has a link to our public portal. So the public portal looks different than the board portal. It looks like this. And then the public, will be able to come over here, and by the list of the date of the meeting, you can download. When you click that, it either says agenda or packet. So that's how the how the public will be able to access the whole packet.
So can we make decisions today on something? I'm not sure how that works. In other words, you asked us a question. Do you post it immediately?
Do you want?
Do we wait
right.
until Monday? We have to make a decision on that.
Well, it's just a general policy. If you would like to have the weekend to review it before the public has access.
Well, I think Rich's point is a procedural. Are we allowed to make decisions and today, even for things like that? I think it's a staff level type thing. I think we're just providing direction to staff. Yeah. I think we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with John's assessment of this. I just want to make sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's typically how we've done it, is wait.
Would be to hold it till Monday.
Okay.
And
That's
my,
what you did for me before I was an alderman.
Mm-hmm.
Held it to Monday before I could get to see the packet.
That's right.
Because they would, if we haven't read it, they've read it.
Exactly. We just wanted to, out of respect, give you more time to look over it. Yeah. Okay.
We're watching football, we don't want video. And I prefer to have the, staff reports kept as separate departments,
Like it is now? Okay.
but
So-
that's just my opinion.
I agree.
Sounds good to me. I know it's kind of a lot of information. A lot of it, you might have more questions as you play with it a little bit more.
So is the March 10th agenda that's in here, that's the actual agenda and meeting packet?
Yes, sir.
all
That's
good
everything.
and ready to go for Thursday night?
That's right.
We can bring this Thursday.
Yep, and you can still add your notes. If you wanted to go in to each section, you click those 3 little dots on the left-hand side and it pulls up that little tab. And then you would just select notes and type whatever notes in that you had for that particular section. It would look like this once you're inside the notes.
You feel comfortable that if we leave here to tell people that from now on Mondays, they can pull the site on Monday. For this coming Thursday, will this be on the public site in advance of Thursday?
I mean, I think if something were to happen and we just were not able to, if there was some kind of software issue or whatever, we would post information that that was the case and provide another way to access the packet. Yeah.
What about minutes? Since what we get in our packet is the draft minutes, are we putting out the draft minutes to the public?
Yep. Yep, the whole packet that you get, the draft minutes and everything is going to the public. Once the minutes have been approved, they will still be uploaded to the website, Unicode, or American Legal, excuse me, like normal. But we also have the option, let's see if I can find here, there's an option for me to take notes and take minutes while we're in the program. So that is another option. I'll try it this Thursday. We'll see how it goes because I haven't had the real life experience yet. But for now, the draft minutes will still be in the packets for the public and the board.
But since the public can't access any of this until Monday, I guess it behooves us over the weekend to look at the minutes and let you.
Yeah, and I do send you the minutes ahead of that to review because once I send them out, I do get notes back from you all, and I make those changes before the draft minutes go out. Yes, ma'am.
This week, in this instance, all of the information, all the packet information for this meeting is already out there. So we had put it on because we really wanted to make sure that the system was going to work, the public could have access as we expected them to have. So that did go out a little bit earlier, but based on what you guys are agreeing to the majority moving forward, y'all will have access prior to the public.
Well, you usually get the draft minutes out to us pretty early anyway.
I do. I try to get them out so that we can go ahead and change them if there's anything we need to change or add to it. Have any other questions? Like I said, I think the more you actually get into it and use it, you'll have questions. And if you ever need to come to my office and see me about something, that's fine. I'm happy to walk you through it. I've been playing with it for probably 3 or 4 months now, but there's still things that I find out, like even putting these little screenshots together. I'm still learning myself, so.
Can everybody go to the Board of, the special meeting agenda? And then once you're in there, go to packet. What's it, go to today's meeting?
Yeah, and then what?
The blue tab that says packet.
Okay, so that is all the information for today's meeting, so when, Elena and Lisa come, you can follow along their PowerPoint presentation on your tablet, so it's practice for Thursday.
That's right.
Because, the tablet's gonna be your resource to access, and the sideboard is for the public to see what's being presented.
And this will stay up on this. So if I want to go back and refresh my memory of what you told me.
That's the whole packet for today. So for notes, what is that? Where was the other screen? click on those little three dots on the side, and then notes. To take notes, you're gonna go,
That thing? That thing?
no, like, where's your
I'm
special
in,
meeting?
I'm in this, I'm in the current one. And this
Oh,
is
okay.
your lesson plan
So close that real fast. Click on those three dots there,
for invocation.
or any of the topics you want to take notes on, and then you can just click. That's right, we can take notes. And then you would just take your notes right there in that section. And it saves it automatically, so you don't have to worry about making sure. The stylus won't work, so you will have to type it. But then you can also, if you wanted to see all the notes you've taken, you'll go to notes. And you don't have any yet, but it would pull all the subjects up on the side. Did you get into it? Okay. And when you use the attachments, it will pull up in whatever format it was posted. So there's 2 docs and then 1 PDF there. If you would like, I can go ahead and show you where the settings are, and you can change your email preferences so that you'll be notified. You're going to click up here under your name, I think, and then email preferences, and then click on that little box, notify me, new content's posted, and then save.
So if there's an amendment to the agenda prior to our meeting, would we get that?
Yes, so I actually asked that question yesterday to the software folks, because normally I just provide paper copies at the meeting when we've updated something. So I will have to repost it, which, like I said, it will take overnight to update. But if that's the case and it's pushing our deadline, I will just bring paper copies so that you can see the most accurate version. Did you change your email preferences? Up under your name, there's a tab on the right-hand side. You want to close that box. Right here, click on that, and then email preferences, and you'll select the box to notify you, and then hit save.
Which tab is it in?
It's under Civic Clerk. Maybe the no access thing. That's the old one. Is it under down? Well, I know you were there a minute ago. When you downloaded something, was it a part of the meeting that you downloaded? Yeah, so click that X right there. And then click on your name there, and it'll pull email preferences down. There you go. Rich, did you get yours saved? Did everybody get theirs saved, their email preferences?
I'm not doing this one.
Yeah.
I'll come in and get my preferences.
Okay.
I don't even know.
I know, yeah. Any other questions about Civic Clerk? Oh. Would you all like to see the department reports like I have them this time? So you're going to want to go out of that agenda. If you go over to, let me just look at it. Click the blue tab at the top left that says agendas with the arrow. And then you can go to the board meeting on March 10th. And that's going to pull up the whole meeting for Thursday. And then keep scrolling down. There's department reports, and each one is listed separately. It's just saved as an attachment there. So you'll just click that. That's right. Okay, here we go. There you go. Flo, do you need help? Okay, okay. Yeah. You're on the wrong one. You were on February's, I think. They're here. Keep scrolling down. On their staff reports right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So before, they were just kind of all in the back section, but now they'll be individual, so you can see them a little bit more distinctly. And I just put the 2 links to the board portal and the public portal at the very end, so you'll have that forever. Any other questions?
I've lost how to get to Civic Clerk.
It is. So it'll be nice, you'll have your tablets all the time. It's not like we'll have to bring them and then reload them with information. And then anytime content is entered, you'll have access and be notified that it's there.
So Joy, I'm assuming you'll use this to check our emails from now on.
You
as
can,
opposed to-
or your cell phone, whichever you have, but yeah, you're welcome to.
or you can use your phone. That's right. Believe me, after making copies. I'm glad we finally got it worked out where we could introduce it and start using it. Feels like it's been a long time coming.
In the future, will there be?
Yes, so apparently the link that I had set up for you is not the right link, so I will go and modify it so it's correct.
If you,
Well, during the break.
during the break, we'll update those links for you so that your tab will still show the correct board portal for you. I think it's time for a break.
Okay, it's at 10:30.
Well, it's not quite, but
We can break then, if it's a good time for it, we'll do it.
we haven't really gotten to that. Eileen, are they covered with our city insurance? I'm sure at some point, but or warranties or anything, I can't remember.
It's a 1-year warranty, so just like anything you have. But drop rate doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So don't drop it.
Charge, it depends on the activity that you're doing. It depends the activity you're doing. Are you watching a movie for 4 hours? Your battery's gonna die. But it's in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see a little power strip, and if you click on that, it'll tell you how much battery you have left. So in the lower left-hand corner, you see something that looks like a battery. Sorry, lower right-hand corner. So currently, my battery is going to be for 9 hours.
Mine's 7 hours and 34
Mine's 9:36, I win.
You win.
Yes, you do.
That's all I had. If you have questions, you're welcome to come by the office. Call Eileen. And one of us will get you straightened out.
Right, we're going to take a short break.
We'll take a break. We need a drink.
A, B, C, D. Cool. Testing. Gonna button that button. Testing. Okay.
Oh, there we go. Good. All right. Everybody, welcome back. It's been a very productive morning so far. Our next speaker is Elena Dale, and we have the community building audiovisual, and looking forward to this. So thank you, Elena.
Alrighty, so before I begin my presentation, I just want to say hi, I'm Elena, if I've not been able to introduce myself to everybody. I think we've all spoken once or twice by now. Just one quick housekeeping thing. I do, yes. Can you hear me okay? I'll let Randy adjust that. Before I begin, I just want to do one quick housekeeping thing, which is that now that we are no longer doing like a test run presentation talking about your Surface tablets, please make sure that you turn on your microphone before speaking to me or asking any questions or making any comments. We actually did have 5 participants watching all morning, so we want to make sure that they can all hear you properly. So let's begin. So before I get into the nitty-gritty of the audio-visual for the community building, I wanted to give everybody a brief overview of my time here. So I was hired in July. My position is 50% community building, 25% communications, and 25% tourism. Now, through certain times of the year, that does vary. Like for instance, when Lisa and I were doing the website refresh, I was probably doing 50% community building, 50% communications, but that's what I was hired to do. And part of that 25% communications is the audio visual for the community building. So we wanted to make sure to make that distinction. Just because it lives in the community building, it belongs to the communications department as far as using it to communicate with the public, and the maintenance and upkeep of the audio visual is what belongs to the community building. Do we have any questions about that distinction? Okay. So what did we ask for? We really wanted to modernize the building and make sure that the public at home was making sure that they can hear, they can see, and they can follow along just like they would if they were in person. And there's a few things about this building that makes audiovisual difficult, some of which I know that we've already spoken about, like the physical building itself is difficult, as well as all of these windows, which is so beautiful and makes this building unique and special, but it's really difficult when we're talking about audiovisual. That's one of the reasons why we chose the Vibe board, which you all have seen and gotten used to a little bit. Now that you have your small tablets in front of you, you can kind of see the Vibe board is like a much larger one of your small screens. And so this is just to help the public view and see what you all are going to be seeing on your tablets. We've been using it as presentations for you all this far, just because you hadn't had your tablets yet. And as it was mentioned this morning, now that you have those tablets, we're going to transition away from you all being able to see the Vibe board perfectly every time, and really focusing in on making sure that the viewers at home and making sure those in the public audience can see the board well and the presentations well. So this Vibe board, we did purchase it for almost $7,000. We did save on that because we got it on a Black Friday deal. But what else have we done for the community building so far? We've also gotten Boxcast Pro. So I know that that's probably something that you all don't get to see, but we, for the viewers at home, use a service called Boxcast. And so far, we've been using a free version of that platform that we then have to pay for monthly. That free version had a lot of limitations that honestly our audience at home is growing too large for, and the nature of our meetings are growing too large for. So we did decide to go ahead and upgrade, which cost us a lot up front, but we will no longer incur that monthly cost. So now where are we? When I was first hired, I was tasked with coming up with company solutions for upgrading the entirety of this building. What would it look like if we had a complete overhaul of our audio visual? We've taken a few steps back from that because when the RFPs started coming in, we had totals like this one, which was $137,000 to completely redo this building. So we're talking camera difference, we're talking audio difference, and we're talking visual differences. This solution actually included the Vibe board as part of that cost. So take off the cost of the Vibe board and we're still at $127,000. Option 2 was a toned down version. We got to $59,000, and that's just with this company. Landmark, we saw $39,000. Premier Audiovisual actually suggested $15,000 just to come out here and tell us what we needed for this building. So this was not an audio solution. This was just for them to come out, visit us, talk with us, and tell us what we needed to do in this building. So the communications team met with Gordon on December 10th, and we used it as an opportunity to go through all of those proposals and those astronomical prices. At Gordon's direction, after the meeting, we decided to reach back out to these companies and talk to them about what we could do just to fix the audio issues in this building. Only 2 of the companies responded to that request, which was Solutions. And so these are the requests that I'm going to talk more in depth about today. So Solutions' total price was $22,000, and keep in mind this is just audio changes. So we're talking microphones, we're talking speakers, that sort of thing. Has nothing to do with the camera, has nothing to do with the visual aspect. We would have wireless mic transmitters, that's what you have sitting on your desks right now. A wireless boundary mic, which looks similar to the one that I'm wearing. A wireless body pack, so someone would have to carry the body pack in their pocket, have the clip on their chest, and walk around that way. A wireless mic receiver, a different amp, mounted speakers, and our current desktop microphones and our current switchboard. So that's important to note. One of the things that I noticed with our audio was one of the major problems when I first got hired on and started looking at these issues is that our mics themselves weren't working properly and why that would be. And I know that it was mentioned briefly. Part of the reason for that is because the tiny antenna on your desktop microphone was not speaking to the large antenna on our AV cart in the back here. And so we adjusted that, we tested it, and as a team we came up with solutions to try to make that work better, including ways to set up the microphones themselves better so they would work better. But the microphones that you have in front of you aren't really bad microphones. Them themselves aren't difficult microphones to use. The problem with them is that you do have to turn them on and off to operate. You have to look directly in them in order to hear you. And if you look to the side when you're having conversations with people, that sound does not transmit into the microphone so the audience can properly hear you. Now, what told me that this is not a microphone problem, very interesting to note, even if they physically can't hear you when you're looking away from the microphone, our equipment is still picking up your words. If you turn on the captions on any of our recorded videos, it'll still pick up what you said. It can, the device itself can hear you and transmit what you said, even though physically you weren't heard. So that's how I knew that the microphones themselves aren't the problem. Please turn on your microphone if you're going to ask me a question, just because we want to make sure that the audience at home can hear you. We do have 5 viewers watching.
Why do the batteries go bad every meeting?
So the batteries, of course, are something worth talking about. One of the solutions that I came up with for that is maybe potentially getting rechargeable batteries, but we do have a device that checks batteries before every meeting, and so far the batteries have not seemed to be the problem. With the microphones, turning on and off the microphones, not speaking clearly into them. And I will say this too, it is going to be a problem moving forward no matter what solution we choose. The microphones will always need to be turned on and off. And part of that reason is because if you leave them on the whole time, it does drain the battery. If you have more than 3 speakers on, microphones on at a time, it does pop in the back on our AV cart, so then it turns off the entire system. And also, if you guys decide to have sidebars with each other that you don't necessarily want the public to hear, you have the option of leaving that microphone off and being able to still have those sidebars. Do we have any other questions before we move on? Yeah.
So just to be clear, now, so this $23,000 solution involves what? Keeping these microphones?
Keeping our same microphones and using our same switchboard. The bulk of this cost for this solution is making sure that presenters have a good speaking microphone, which we did decide to go ahead and actually Lisa already had this for on the street recording. It also includes putting up some wireless boundary points.
What that is?
Yeah, wireless boundary points is basically saying our Wi-Fi, the way that it currently is, can hold up to, let's say, 10 devices. It's probably more like 15, but if 10 devices were on it all at once, it would be running pretty slowly. And so what you do in order to help that is you put up some boundary points that can also hold devices. And since all of you all are going to have tablets, us in the back, we're going to be having laptops, our cell phones hooked to the Wi-Fi, and the Vibe board potentially hooked to the Wi-Fi. It's going to be important that no matter what we do, we make sure to get some of those wireless boundary points to make sure that all of our devices are running smoothly across our Wi-Fi.
It also apparently includes, what, a new amp and some new speakers?
New speakers, mounted speakers, so we no longer have to move these two in the back in and out. And I will touch on that a little bit further along in the presentation. Okay. Then we have Landmark Audio Visual, who also turned in a second proposal to us for $19,000. Which included different desktop microphones, but it's still important to note that there's still push on and off microphones. 2 handheld microphones that our nonprofits who utilize this space would be able to use for their presentations and things that they rent out the space for, as well as our presenters. A mounted hardware rack to be located in the kitchen. We love this idea for the fact that every time we move our AV cart, the one in the back there, in and out, that equipment is being jostled about. It's being jostled about, but also hitting each other. The amount of time that you move electrical equipment is important because that does decrease the life value of that equipment. So every time we put things away, we move it about, it gets jostled about, it wears down just a little bit more than if it was stationary in a place all of the time. And so their solution talks to that effect. We would keep our current switchboard. It would just then live in the mounted hardware rack. The communications department would get an iPad that would control the speaker volume and other various equipment, as well as 2 mounted column wall speakers, which would go in place of these 2 speakers over the fireplace. Rather than being jutted out from the fireplace as these 2 are, they would be flush to either side of the tall column on either side of the fireplace. The other solutions mounted speakers, I should have noted, they suggested that we put one in each of the 4 corners. And when talking about this room in particular, because of the issues we have with the shape of the building, it's my fear that if we had speakers in each of the four corners, that we would get feedback and an echo, just because the sound would be carried up into the ceiling and then reverberated back down to the audience. With it coming from one place and towards the audience potentially, either from the side or if they're facing the fireplace, we would probably have less feedback, less echo.
Have we looked into some type of baffling or anything to improve the acoustics?
Yes, unfortunately, I have been told by all of the companies who came out to us that unless we decide to physically change the building and lower our ceiling, we're always going to have reverberation coming from up, back down, just because of the simple shape that we're almost a triangle. If we did want to lower the ceiling, that would be a potential possibility. Right. Right. Where are we today? And so that's what I really want to focus on too, because it's not just about these other companies who have come in and told us solutions that could potentially make our audio better. I want to really focus in on what has already been done. Our visual presentations, we're continuing to learn the new equipment that we've ordered, such as your tablets and our Vibe board. We are continuing to use the same camera setup that we've been using, which viewers at home seem to not have a problem with the camera itself. With the addition of the new Boxcast device. I also want to mention that Boxcast, one of the things that they're able to do, and something that Lisa and I made sure got put up on our website, is you can stream our videos at home through a smart television. So if somebody's not very computer savvy, but they enjoy watching things on their TV at home and they have a smart TV or smart device, you can stream our meetings that way. And then audio, a decision needs to be made. Out of our budget, we have $14,656.85 left for this upgrade. Now, we do need to set the expectations of what our audio will be able to do because of the space that we are currently in. The microphones we currently have are working better than they have in the past, and we kind of touched on that, the small antenna. The speakers, however, are large and cumbersome. Moving the speakers and equipment in general around as much as we do lowers their life expectancy. We touched on that as well. The issues that we have continued to face include turning the mics on and off, not sitting with your head facing towards the microphone. We've already touched on that. However, one of the good things about the speakers being movable the way that they are is that it can accommodate different setups. Like for instance, today, set up in a V. The last meeting that we were in, we were set up in the V. The speakers that we have would allow for us to move back in front of the fireplace, or essentially any way that you would possibly want to be able to set up this room. Unlike mounted speakers, where that does limit the ability to hear if they were sitting sideways to the speakers versus head on to the speakers. What is my recommendation? If we choose to upgrade the system, my recommendation is that we choose the Landmark Audio Phase 1 proposal, which was $19,000. And we can go back to that proposal. This is the one that I mentioned, has the rack located in the kitchen where we would no longer have to move the equipment around as much as we do now. It does have our current switchboard as part of it. We would be able to control the speaker volume using an iPad that would be given to the communications department. That's the one that has the speakers mounted on top of the fireplace. It is important to note that even though this proposal does replace our current microphones, they would still be a push on and off microphone. You would still need to talk directly in them.
With the iPad to use the speaker control, would you do that in real time while somebody's speaking? Like the speaker gets up and maybe he's very soft-spoken or something, and Randy or Lisa would just on the fly while he's talking turn him up up, and then when he gets through and somebody else is speaking and they're loud, they turn them down? Is that how you'd envision that
Yeah.
working?
Absolutely. So just like we do now, we do have our switchboard next to us now. So like, for instance, when I started this presentation, it was difficult to hear me. Randy popped up and moved the volume on the switchboard itself. What that iPad would change is that that switchboard would live in the kitchen. So rather than having to run into the kitchen in order to adjust the volume, you'd do it right there on the iPad.
How big is the rack in the kitchen that this equipment would be housed on?
That is an excellent question. So if you could imagine with me the kitchen, to the left-hand side there is a cabinet rack that is up on the wall and 2 cabinets down on the bottom. They would take all of that out and it would replace that space. So it would probably be roughly 6 feet tall and roughly 4 foot wide.
Would the new microphones stop the problem with being overdriven and tripping the speaker?
No.
Because I'm just wondering how you would deal with that if the rack's in there and it gets overdriven and it trips.
That is an excellent point, and the answer is one of us from the communications team would have to run back and turn it back on, just like we do today, except for the audio rack is next to us. Do we have any other questions?
I'd just like to circle back about having to lower the ceiling or actually put some pads on the walls on these angles right here.
Uh-huh.
So now I'm getting squelchy. Obviously, we're not going to lower the ceiling,
Right.
but they ruled out any improvement by putting absorbent panels on the first 4 or 8 panels here. They
Yes.
said that wouldn't help.
Each company that I spoke to mentioned to me multiple times that our issue is not the angled parts of the ceiling, and that in fact our angled parts do help the sound better than if it was just a large column up. That our issue comes from having the main ceiling so far up. That's where the echo reverberates down from.
And I take it those are supposed to be sound absorbing panels up there, I'm assuming, that are up there now.
I don't believe that they are. I believe that they're just normal paneling.
I don't know, I've been in churches and stuff that had paneling, had stuff put on the ceiling, and they're much higher than this. And when the stuff wasn't there, you had what we have right now today, that echo, almost like 2 TV turners have been turned up at the same time.
Right.
And it helped out tremendously. So this is not a tremendously high ceiling to have that. Sometime in the future, I'd like to go and revisit that whole question again.
Sure. And something else that I'd like to point out too is that the difference between our building and probably a church that you're envisioning is that they also probably had solid walls, right? Not as many windows as we do.
Stone, so it echoes. And it still was remarkably different once they put the stuff on the ceiling.
Absolutely. And I do want to point out that if this was something that any of these companies had told me would be a possibility to look into, I of course would have included it in this presentation.
Okay.
None of them seem to think that it would help enough to be worth putting in the legwork to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else have any questions for me?
I don't have a question for you, I guess. So Gordon, we would need to budget another $5,000 in next year's budget in order to complete this. Is that kind of what the thought process is?
I think that would probably be the best route forward, is to go ahead and budget for next year. Although we could look and see if that additional money is available now, although we're getting close to the end of the year, and I'm hesitant to pull $5,000 out of there. So it would definitely be something that maybe we would have to look at next year.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today. If you have any other questions or you think of anything after the fact and you want to email me, I do have cards for you all today. Any questions, or if you'd like to get the names of the companies that I interviewed or the full proposals that were given to me, I'd be happy to pass that off. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. That was excellent information, and it sounds like we can move forward in our budget to purchase the appropriate improvements. Next will be Lisa Anderson, Communication Strategies and Goals, and we're looking forward to this presentation. And they've worked hard on this, and from the technology to the improvement in communication. So we appreciate the effort. Ms. Anderson, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all for your time today. I appreciate that you've sat through a lot of technology stuff. Mine is going to be a little bit more about messaging. There is some technology involved, but nothing that you have to do on your tablets, except for follow along if you'd like to follow along with the presentation. So, for today's objectives with this presentation, we're going to discuss effective municipal communications a little bit, and we're going to review the scope of the communications program as we have it today. And then, just as you guys have done in past meetings, we're going to do a little bit of future visioning as to how we can improve our communications program and what our opportunities are. So, to strive for excellence in our government, project a positive attitude, involve our community, and protect our citizens by ensuring a safe, secure, and tranquil quality of life with controlled and orderly growth. Sound familiar? That's our mission statement for the city. So as we progress through this presentation, I'd like you to keep these tenets in the back of your mind, because our goal is to make sure that every aspect of our communications program aligns to our mission statement. So, let's talk a little bit about effective communications. So we talk about communications a lot. We use that word a lot, but we haven't done such a great job of really communicating with each other, specifically what we mean when we say we need to improve our communications. So it's a pretty large umbrella. So as we start moving forward into the presentation, I'm going to have a lot of recommendations as far as areas that we could put our focus for improvement. So let's dive right in. So before you can think about communications of any type, you need to understand who your audience is. And here in Southport, we have 4 primary audiences. We have our community members, which is our residents and our local business owners. We have our visitors and friends, those that visit and invest in our local economy, and those that admire us from afar. And then we have our city staff. They are the heartbeat of a well-functioning city and our most important asset. And finally, we have the media. They extend our messaging, or if we don't give a message, they will create one of their own for us, which is not what we want. We want to work in a partnership with them. So each of these different audience segments has a little bit different need. And just like any relationship, you need to understand what that person's pain points are. What are their concerns? What are their needs? What are their hopes? So we need to focus some of our time and energy on making sure that we really understand what each segment needs, and it's not one size fits all. So in any relationship, which is what we're trying to do, is build relationships, we want to educate, engage, and inspire. And that is what helps us to build a relationship. And this idea here, educate, engage, and inspire, is really a part of any basic communications program, whether you're a city or a company. Those are really the very basic pieces that you want to strive for. So when we communicate, regardless of what method we're using, regardless of what the message is, we should be thinking about some of these things that I'm going to go through in just a moment. And so as we go through these, the word Southport should be interchangeable with effective communications. So Southport is transparent, accountable, authentic, strategic and not reactive. Sorry, I can't read it. Consistent, collaborative, inclusive of all demographics, and actively listening. And those are just very, very basic. We could go on and on. I could just sit with you all day long and talk about communications tactics, but I won't do that with you today, lucky you. But these are things that, again, no matter how we're communicating and what we're communicating, we need to have these things in place in our messaging. So, let's dive in and take a look at how we got to where we are today with our communications program. How did we even get started with all this good stuff? So, when Hurricane Florence hit, the city realized, wow, after living through that, we really needed to have better ways, more quick ways, more flexible ways to communicate with the public around emergency scenarios. And obviously that mapped to non-emergency scenarios as well. But it was really a wake-up call, and so the city decided we needed a Facebook page. So that was in July of 2019, and that is when I was hired initially as a part-time employee to create a Facebook page. And that is what I did. By August of 2019, we had our primary Facebook page up and running, and my role at that time was to create content and do graphics design for those posts and to assist Sharon with web updates, because at that time she managed the website. So pretty basic. And then, plot twist, we had to quickly pivot towards public safety as our message because we got hit with Dorian 1 short month later in September of 2019. So thank goodness we had our act together this time and in place. And then August of 2020, we had Hurricane Isaias. And then 2020, the pandemic hit. And that turned everybody's world upside down. And so in a communications functionality, we were reacting ever since we decided that we needed to do a better job with communication. It has been 2.5 years of react and spin, and we haven't had the bandwidth or the time to really think thoughtfully about creating more proactive messaging around some of our key initiatives. So that is one of the things we're going to talk about a little bit as we move forward. So once I got into the position, I realized, holy moly, we have a lot of opportunity to do some good things. And again, it was still primarily driven by need. We needed to have more tactics. We needed to have more avenues to communicate with our audiences. So I pushed the envelope, and I pushed the envelope because I'm a pushy lady. And this is what happened. So basically, our program today is not just social media and a web page. Our program is a true program, and it has various elements. So included today, we have our media relations, and we have internal training. We have Southport Connected that you're all familiar with. We have a wonderful monthly newsletter that the tourism department manages. We have still the social media and graphic design aspect of it, as well as the web design and maintenance, but I own it now. And we added video production and audiovisual, brand management, social listening and combating misinformation, process and workflow development, and emergency communications. So as you can see, we've really grown significantly, and the role has grown exponentially along with that. So let's take a quick look at some of these on their own. So the city website and events calendar has been established since 2017 with a grant from Electric Cities. And over time, the city website grew along with the city. So it became a little bit unwieldy, and as we had more and more things that we wanted to share with the public, and we got a little bit better about, putting information out there so everyone's aware of what we've got going on, it really became a lot to try to dig through the website. And so I am so happy to announce that a couple of months ago, we finished a refresh to the existing website. Elena was incredibly instrumental in assisting me to restructure our format a little bit. And instead of giving you a demo, are you guys able to ping over to the city website? Is that something? If you can, try it out. If you can't, it's fine. I'll tell you what we did, and you can look at it later. But basically, our key goal was to elevate critical information, quote unquote, above the fold. And so what that means is we wanted to make everything that was most critical for people to access up at the top of the page. And so even without scrolling, you should be able to see some really key items that are of interest. And so depending on what your format is, when you're looking at a tablet or a phone or a larger screen, obviously you're going to see a little bit different view on the website. But what we did is we've restructured the very top navigation level for the website. We have added some search functionality right in the middle of the page, and not only do we have a new search bar, but we've proactively put links into specific pieces of information that we know are popular searches that people want to go to right away, like the UDO or the department pages, things like that. So on the front page, you'll notice some changes, which hopefully are really good. We also have a brand new banner that goes across where we promote whatever the next 4 to 5 things happening in town are. So we want to draw attention to those important tasks and items. So hopefully, when you get to really play with it a little more, you'll see that it is easier to find. We've done a lot of stuff on the back end to try to help our search functionality. That's stuff you won't see, but hopefully it'll help your experience. And we've also, for the city departments, this is a big area where we've been able to take some strides forward. If you go to any of the departments, each one now is formatted in a tabbed format. So instead of having like all of development services stuff all on one ginormous page that you scroll through and try to figure out what you're finding, it is now tabbed out into hopefully intuitive tabs and sections. So you go, oh, I would like to see that information. And there you have that information. So hopefully your user experience and the rest of our users will be assisted with that level. And obviously, we are always moving and changing. At some point, I would love to explore moving to a government platform for hosting from a security standpoint, for our data security, and also for some ADA things. We have areas for improvement. The website we have, like I said, it had over 8,000 pages, just to give you a sense of what unwieldy means. And we were able to pare that down to some degree, but it would take more time to try to pare that down than to start over and build a net new site on a government-specific platform. So that is a future goal, and I'm not even including that in my future goals right now, but just so you know, that is an opportunity for us down the road. Okay. So,
Lisa, this
yes,
is amazing. Has everyone looked at the page, what she's describing? I mean, so really, it just scrolls through. Southport accepting bids for Taylor Field, special board workshop schedule, Tuesday, May 8th, storm drain repairs, March 3rd. I mean, this is fantastic. I mean, yeah, you can actually see what is going. Southport seeks qualified engineering. Southport seeks qualified engineering for consultants for wastewater pump stations. I mean, this is incredible information, and the way it's documented and everything. It's just, well
Thank
needed.
you.
It looks well.
Thank you, Mayor. And if you have any recommendations as users, as you start playing with it, then please let me know, and we'll see if we can make further improvements with what we have. So now we're going to switch gears and go to our social media presence as it stands now. So as you know, we started out with one basic Facebook page, which we do have still. We have a little over 4,700 followers, which is great because that is more people than I think we have technically that are taxpayers, but we do have a lot of people who follow us from afar. So as far as usage of this page, this is where we really put out our primary stuff, everything that we want to say to the community, whether it is a public notice, an event, whatever it is, it goes out on this channel for sure. And just to give you an idea, in December of 2021, we did approximately 65 posts on this channel. And so if you extrapolate that over 12 months' time, that's approximately 780 posts in a year on this channel. So, and that was in 2021. So, we also have now a Southport emergency information page, which, as you might guess, is used for emergencies. So, we have about 2,400 followers on that, and as time allows, we will do continuous pushes. Like right now, we are right in the middle of the NWS and NOAA Severe Weather Preparedness Week, so we have a lot of content going out on that. So we are trying to push more people to pay attention to this, and certainly if we are on the cusp of something that looks like it's going to be severe weather issue or some other emergency, heaven forbid, we would do a harder push again to try to drive people to this page, because when we activate the EOC and we're all in that mode, this is where we put we would put all of that critical information. And that's where we tell people to go for one-stop shopping, because as you know, during an emergency, there's a lot going on, and we have citizens trying to say what's happening in one corner of the city, and we have all kinds of sources trying to tell you what is happening, and it's confusing. So what we want to do is drive people towards this particular Facebook page. We also do it on the website for people who aren't on Facebook, but we try to funnel all of the official information that comes from the chiefs.
Is that a code red thing?
No, sir, this is strictly just Facebook. We do use this in conjunction with Code Red, absolutely. Because we're going to talk about that as its own thing.
Okie dokie.
All right, we also have an Instagram page and about 2,500 followers on that. And these are not necessarily, there's definitely crossover, but we have some unique followers on Instagram. By nature of this tool and the way that this platform is set up, it is primarily for the more touchy-feely, more pretty pictures. Isn't this beautiful? It will be used a lot from tourism and driving people to come here and spend their hard-earned dollars with us. We have a Twitter account, and we have about 675 followers on that. Twitter, again, by nature of that platform, is really limited to 280 characters per tweet. And so it's really more of just a headline blast, and we will use that with a link that'll map back to a larger story on our website. We don't always put things on Twitter, so we discern what makes sense to go in which of these areas. And then finally, we have our City of Southport YouTube channel. We have about 303 subscribers. Now, this is low because we do not do intentional pushes to try to drive traffic here as something's happening. We do not, and there we go. Back up, okay. We do not put net new content on YouTube. Basically, we use it more as a repository and an archive for our video content. So if you wanted to see last year's BOA meetings, you certainly have access to that, or when we did a lot of virtual events, all of that content is still out there. All right, something really important for you guys to know about social media is communication between government entities and citizens on social media is considered a public forum. So government agencies must adhere to open record laws in their state and be able to respond to public record requests for social media. So that's a big job because we have multiple channels and we have our website, and don't forget there's also the police Facebook page, the fire Facebook page, which they manage. So we contract with Archive Social. Actually, Chief Todd set this up a couple of years ago, and we've expanded it to cover all of our channels that we now have, as well as the website. So basically, this service assists us in staying transparent and being able to fulfill any requests that come in around data that we might have had out on Facebook or another channel. So we always have a snapshot of what we've put out there. So even if by some chance something got deleted, which I don't typically do, and I'll talk about that in a minute, we would still have a record of it so we could still be compliant. Okay, so what is social listening? Social listening is basically actively monitoring and moderating each one of those channels that you saw. So clearly my job in doing that is not between 9 and 5. I try to keep my eyes on our accounts throughout the day, into the evening a little bit, just to check and make sure, because we can't build relationships with our audiences if we're not listening. And since we're putting out information to the city, we want that two-way dialogue. And so to encourage that two-way dialogue, we've got to pay attention and we've got to interact with people. So many times we'll just get questions, you know, and we try to answer those as best we can, or at least we can filter that question to the right place. Sometimes it gets a little ugly. We've had some things happen over the last couple of years that have really been challenging, and not just for us, but any municipality, any government entity, in trying to figure out messaging and how to respond. So it really requires a clear understanding of First Amendment rights. And what is the difference between a troll from, say, another country who is coming and squatting on our stuff and causing a ruckus and stirring the pot, that is just there to stir the pot and has no business being on our stuff? That is the only type of instance where I will take an action such as to hide something. Again, that would still be captured on our archive social, but if it is a citizen, we want to support citizen speak. Everyone is allowed to have an opinion, whether it aligns with our opinions or not. So what our goal is to have our social media platforms be an open place for constructive dialogue, that where people stay on topic. That's another area that we want to try to encourage per post. And as long as there's no threats to harm, as long as there's no foul language, we pretty much need to allow people to speak their piece. So, combating misinformation and rumors. This got really fun around COVID, and I'm sure all of you had to help do this to some extent in your roles. We had evolving public health guidelines from the CDC, then Brunswick County, and all of this stuff had to be distilled down to something that made sense for our community. And the mayor was really helpful in doing that by putting out his public notices and always having an open channel of communication. But it was a challenge because there was a little bit of angst around this. COVID, believe it or not, caused a lot of fear. And people now have access to sit behind a screen, anonymously-ish, and sometimes it just got hard. And there was a lot of misinformation. So our job is to see those opportunities for education, to put facts out. I am not going to engage unless there are facts or something educational that I can provide to people. We also had political unrest before, during, and after the 2020 elections. And that brought a whole new level of challenge to government, social media, and communication. So those are just some examples of areas where we would need to pay extra close attention to what the dialogues are. And also just in general, social listening helps me to help you guys. Because if I pay attention to what's happening on our channel, I can let you guys know, like I've let the mayor know, wow, I see an issue. I've let Gordon know, yikes, this was said, how do we come back and have a positive impact on whatever happened? Okay, so brand management. Some of you may think as branding as something that is just a tactic for tourism or for supermodels or for Coke or IBM, and it's not. Branding is very much a part of what we need to focus on in our community communications, because our brand boils down to public perception of the city, and that's our reputation. So we need to protect that. And whether we mean to or not, regardless of how we're communicating and what mechanism we're using to communicate, we are expressing our brand in every form. And sometimes that isn't necessarily what you intend to do. But because we are all brand stewards for the city, whether we are hired or elected, we're a small town. Everybody knows who you are, and to some degree, they know who a lot of the employees are. So you don't even have to be parading around with a city seal on your chest. But part of what we do when we become part of this family here is we sign on as brand stewards. And so whether you're out and about having an informal communication or whether you're doing a presentation or a meeting, it's all the same thing. We are always, no matter what, no matter when, no matter how, we are communicating something about the city. Okay, so setting an authentic and approachable tone and manner humanizes the city, and it brings the city and City Hall together. And that's another important thing, and that especially showed up during some of those crises that I talked about. You know, a lot of times people think that behind that screen that it's some kind of robot or something, you know, or they don't necessarily feel like we are human beings just like they are. And until they relate to us in a way where we're human beings and City Hall is full of human beings that are there to serve them, we're not going to have the relationship that we want. So that's another important element of how we communicate. Because a well-executed brand strengthens a community's pride and sense of place. So that is why branding is so important to us as a city. Okay, our favorite, right? Video production and audiovisual. 2020 brought the need for further digitalization of the city's communications. And as it turns out, video is one of the most important ways that we express our humanity. That is the most engaging format of giving information. So this is what our filming and video production aspect looks. Now this means we are filming the mayor and going off and editing it, creating a program, and then putting it out. This isn't live. So we have used it for virtual events. Good heavens, in 2020 and 2019 we did a tremendous amount of virtual events. I think in one of those years we did over 100 and some odd events virtually, which is a lot of work, but it turned out really well. We have the mayor's videos that he puts out every month. And back in 2020, we did a program, Southport Safe. And you guys may have seen this little badge in store windows at the time. But we basically went out to 38 different restaurants, business owners, and artisans, and filmed each one of them and did a promotional film piece for free because they needed that support from us as a city when it got tough. And these videos and this promotion helped the community to understand how they were pivoting their business practices to make sure that people could shop with them in a safe way. So that's just another example of something as a community-focused campaign that we can do. We do departmental program videos, such as when the fire department wanted to recruit. We did a nice video with them and edited that all together, and it's still available on our website. We've done things for APS, many other departments. And then training. We put together videos to use for training. You may see it public-facing on our Southport Connected page. We have an educational video on how to sign up and how to use the tool. And we also did one for internal use to train our employees on how to use the tool as well. And then something you all know and love, our live streaming efforts. That's when there's no editing involved, and it just is, whatever y'all say, it is. So we've got Board of Aldermen meetings, and then we also do this for community events. And you may have seen some of the activity that Randy and I have done, such as the summer market or other community events. And short of putting out cute puppy pictures, this type of activity right here is where we see the highest engagement with our audiences. we get amazing community feedback. We get just, for no reason, people are like, wow, this is great, thank you so much for sharing it. And so things like, you may think, well, that's just fluff. Well, it's not, because this is helping us to express our brand, it's helping us to express our humanity, and it is also, it's covering all of our audiences. Because, oh, by the way, the media picks up stuff from our social media. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. But we may not send out a press release, but they check our social media feeds, and they will pick up a story off of that. So, at any rate, the community loves these. People that are not here, those people who admire us from afar, love these videos. Okay. So, Southport Connected. So, this is our community notification tool. We send out updates when the mayor does his update or the newsletter comes out, or we have an emergency type information that we want to communicate. We have the ability to do geo-targeted notifications, which basically means we're able to draw a circle around a certain area that is going to be affected by something and communicate only with those subscribers in that area. So we've used that for planned electrical outages when there's been work done and things like that. So it's built on the OnSolve Code Red platform, and I customized it specifically for Southport, so it was branded for us, for our community. Notifications are sent out via email, text, and voice, and we primarily save voice for emergency scenarios. None of y'all want to hear me tell you that the newsletter's out. So we usually just send that out in a text and email. And when people subscribe, and we have about 1,170 subscribers, when they subscribe, they get to choose what type of information they want to receive and how they would like to receive it. And so they just sign up right through our website. Okay, and when I put on my public information officer hat, it's all about the emergencies. So you guys have probably seen the NWS weather warnings when we get into scenarios like the January 20th ice storm, things like that. So my job in that aspect is report accurate and timely information to the public and media through social media, website, press releases, and Southport Connected. When the EOC is enacted, I take my direction from the person who is in charge of the EOC and filter that information down, so I'm not working in a vacuum. I'm not making stuff up. One of the things that I just did, which is super exciting, is I just created a little local network of PIOs who have the same role for communications for their organizations and cities. And so we now have Bald Head Island, Oak Island, Leland, Dosher Hospital, I'm missing people. But at any rate, there's about 7 organizations that are engaged now, and we're all going to meet at least on the phone or virtually on a regular basis, and then hopefully we'll be able to meet in person. But we are going to collaborate because we all have the similar challenges and things, so we're going to share best practices. And certainly, in case of emergency, we're going to be able to coordinate together before, during, and after an emergency scenario. So that's going to be super helpful. And then in non-emergency situations, I still manage media relations, and typically that is in the form of putting out press releases based on our messaging and discerning when that's appropriate, because not everything is news. So we have to be careful when we put out press releases specifically that they are news and it's something that the media should spend their time and focus on. I'm also the press liaison and facilitate interview requests with city leadership, so hopefully it doesn't always happen this way, but the goal is for the media to come through me, and then I would coordinate with any of you to make sure that we were able to get with them in a timely fashion. A future goal is to do a little bit of proactive work with the media and for me to better understand what their needs are and how I can work with them better. So I say, from an audience perspective, I need to work on this relationship because some of this is relatively new to me and I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Okay, the newsletter that comes out on a monthly basis. Sharon in tourism, she started that wonderful piece and it is still going strong. We have about 750 subscribers for the newsletter, both local and out of state. And it is now managed by Elena. She's taken over that responsibility from Sharon, and she puts that content together. And basically the content consists of everything from updates from the mayor and the city manager to departmental updates. You always get to meet a new person on the staff and get a little bit of a background on that person, recipes, history, it's got it all. So people sign up for that using Southport Connected. Whether or not they're using that tool for emergency notifications, they can sign up for this information. Okay. Communications and process workflow development. This is more important than ever now because this wasn't something that we were able to put a lot of thought into previously. When we were react, there wasn't time to proactively think about, where are our challenges in our communication? Where are our silos and our bottlenecks? Nobody's had time to do that, because everybody's flying a million miles an hour trying to get things done and get out. So this is something that requires stepping back, away from the noise, and really identifying where some of our challenges are, and being able to figure out, all right, how can we fix this process? How can we streamline so we're being more efficient? And so it also means figuring out innovation that might support that effort, whether it's a new software tool or digitizing, automating workflows. So that's an important part of what I do right now, and we've only scratched the surface. And the example that I'd like to share with you today is our new content submission and approval workflow. So this was an idea that Gordon had, and so he and I worked a lot on trying to develop this program because we wanted to ensure that all of the information, whether as a public notice, primarily public notices, but all of our critical information that we put out to the public was accurate and that we had more eyes on it. Again, flying a million miles an hour, it's easy to miss something. So when you put more eyeballs on it, it helps tremendously. Yes, Lo?
For the public to use or for us only?
This is actually just an internal tool, and it is on our website, but it's not in a public access area, so only our employees have access to be able to get to the form that I'm going to show you. But basically, we wanted to put this process flow and automate it as much as possible, and so we're going to look at a practical application just to give you a quick idea of how this works. So this is Randy right here. And let's say that he gets a call from a production company and they want to film, and so we need to have some streets closed during certain periods of time. We all are familiar with that, right? So he knows that he has to get up with Chief Todd and with Tom because they have critical parts of information and they all need to collaborate. So part of what our goal is to make sure that all of the departments are breaking down silos and communicating in a more systematic way to make sure that our message is on target. So he would talk to Chief Todd and with Tom, get all their ducks in a row, and they know, okay, now we've got our story straight, we need to figure out how we're gonna deliver it to the public. And that's where this form comes in. So once they have their story together, Randy would go to this online content request form, and there's a bunch of fields to fill out. Basically, this is all just contact information. Here is where he would enter his basic draft of what he felt the text of the details and facts needed to be. If he had an image or artwork, he would upload it here, and I would use that. Otherwise, I create one. And if he has a specific deadline that this needs to be posted by, this is where he would enter that information. You get to choose what social media platforms you'd like it to be delivered on, and typically I end up making that decision for people. We identify whether or not this is content that needs to go out on Southport Connected, and if so, who's your audience? And is this going to be a geo-targeted message that needs to just go to a very small audience? And if it is, then Randy would put this, but typically when there's going to be street closures, we want to let everyone know. Then he tells me, does he want a post on the website? Is this something that needs to go on the calendar? So yes, in this instance, to the website, and no on the calendar. And then we want to make sure that we are utilizing all of our communications tactics Instead of just always going, all right, this is going to be a public notice, we want to make sure we're thinking through our messaging. And so do we want a press release? Do we want a video interview? Is this something that would be useful for a Facebook Live thing, like an event? And do we want an article in the newsletter? So in Randy's case, in this scenario, no. But these things may be useful in another event. So the last question on the form is, does your content require input, feedback, approval from city leadership? And if so, who do we need to engage to get their eyes on it? And then after he's answered those questions, he pushes submit, and then it comes automatically to me. So Randy and his team have collaborated, they've got eyeballs on it, they submit that form, it comes to communications, I create the graphic, finalize what I think the draft text should be, and put it in all the right places in draft mode, and then that draft goes back to the requester, in this case Randy, and also to Gordon. Everything goes past Gordon for public notices and those things, so that the city manager is aware of what is being said to the public, and he has a heads up and he's kept in the loop. And then once I get approval from the requester and Gordon, then I let it fly and it's post, and we're done with that process. But this process has come in so handy over the past couple of months. I feel like there's been a real improvement in how we communicate together, and I feel like it's keeping us in the loop, and I feel like those extra eyeballs are helping to keep our messages accurate. So, a couple big projects that I would love to proactively work on more, but it's really difficult to get bandwidth to do these because you actually have to be in a quiet room and write content. One is we need to reduce our risk with social media. We have a social media policy that's been around for quite some time, pre-me certainly, but it is not really up to standard for the way that social media is used today. From a legal standpoint, I feel like we have vulnerabilities, and another municipality in the area, which will remain unnamed, recently had an instance where one of their employees, which was in a employee uniform, put some very awful things out on social media on Facebook, and the city had to react. So we want to get ahead of that. We want to create social media policy in terms of use, not just for our employees, but also terms of use, bless you, also terms of use for our public and how they interact with us. So we don't have that piece of it at all, but all of this needs to be created. I've got some excellent sources to start with, so I don't recreate the wheel. It just takes time. And then we would have our legal counsel obviously put eyes on it to make sure that we are covering everything we need to. Another area is, because we're starting to have so much going on with so many different tactics, I need to develop an editorial calendar to keep things straight, because I'm always worried I'm going to drop something because there's just so much happening. And that'll also help us to schedule things out when we can be in front of a specific message or campaign. It'll help us not to be on top of something else. And then brand management. I want to develop a cohesive brand style guide to help protect our reputation. So, to be honest, and this is nobody's fault, it just is, I have looked at a whole bunch of other municipalities, large, small, and everything in between, and we're a little bit behind the curve on some of these things that I've talked about so far. Our processes, our documentation, our tools, we have some catch up to do. And we need to do what's right for our community, but we also need to realize that we're definitely not cutting edge with what we have. There's room to grow, and some of these are really standard tactics that we don't yet have in place, but it's my goal to make that happen with your support. Okay, so let's talk about visioning. So you've seen the state of where we are today and the different elements that we utilize. Let's go into vision mode and talk about where can we be in the future. And this is really where we talk about opportunities. So it's above and beyond the scope that we have, but these are very, very good things that we want to think about. So we're all interested in good governance. Regardless of who our audience is, we want to have transparency, accountability, and positive culture. So Now and in the future, we need to think, how do we do better? How do we become more strategic and less reactive? How do we create unified messaging? How do we engage audiences more deeply? And how do we leverage technology to bring documentation and processes up to date? So these are all good questions. I have lots of ideas, but I am not going to answer all of these for you today because the majority of my ideas will take manpower and or investment in tools. So the first thing we can do, the first thing we need is a plan. We need a strategic plan for our communications. And this is, again, another very basic communications tenet that most cities have in place at this time. But this basically is a living document that would be updated on, say, an annual basis. It encompasses everything from our mission statement to our social media policy to anything that has to do with communications. It's kind of like a communications Bible, if you will. And so this really talks about how we do. And then the second part of that is creating strategic messaging and using a standardized communication workflow or project plan that we use for all of our key initiatives that we want to talk through and bring out to the community. So we've started doing that a little bit, right? We've started doing that for the rate committee. We did a tiny bit of it around the water rate increase, and we are just on the cusp of looking at doing that for load management messaging. But that is something where we need to proactively look, and so if we have an editorial calendar, if we know what our standards are for communication, then we'll be able to be doing a better job at the individual initiatives and communicating that. So, the two words, information and communication, are often used interchangeably, but they signify quite different things. Information is giving out, and real communications is getting through, which is ultimately what we want to do. Sydney Harris, journalist. So, our public notices today, they're basically one-way statements. That is not a dialogue, it's not engagement, and it may be educational, but it's not engaging, and it depends on what you feel is inspiring. It may inspire you. So effective communication is a two-way dialogue. So why is engagement so important to Southport? Because it builds trust and understanding, because it impacts citizen perception and organizational culture, and it involves our community, if we let it. So, team engagement, when we think about that vision and how we do better in that arena, I found these statistics from Clear Company, and basically 39% of employees within a surveyed group believe that there isn't enough collaboration between teams in their organization. 86% of polled executives and employees blame a lack of collaboration or bad communication for team problems and failures. And less than 50% of respondents thought their organizations effectively and honestly discussed issues with employees. So those are some pretty startling statistics, and I feel like in our organization we have some room for improvement. Employee engagement can take a lot of different aspects. There are a ton of ways that we can improve, but it takes planning and it takes thought. Some of these things we can change more quickly than others, but do not discount the importance of employee communication when you think about the future of our city, because without having that engagement aspect, without our employees feeling like we're informing them or keeping them in the loop or allowing them to have a voice, we are not going to have the most efficient team. We are not going to have the most loyal team. And I know you guys are all very concerned about our ability or inability to pay market rates for people. Money absolutely is important. However, it is not the only thing. So when we think about how we're going to treat our employees better, in addition to the money aspect, let's think of how we can communicate with them better and have a dialogue. Okay, so finally, wrapping up. Let's talk a little bit about your priorities. I mean, I know you guys bless you, have an incredibly difficult job to do every year when we come to budget. But I've been more closely aligned with what's happening for this year's upcoming budget. And I know you guys are worried about everything from mosquito larvae to resurfacing streets and shoreline stabilization. You guys have a lot, and it all takes money, and it's a lot to prioritize. So I do understand that. However, we cannot go backwards, right? We can't go back to this. That ship has sailed. Now, we can stay status quo and do these things. However, it's not a two-way dialogue. Most of our activities are a one-way dialogue, so we're still not getting that level of engagement that we'd like to have. And here's our future vision for tactics and things that we can add in the future. Collaboration tools and technology, citizen engagement, strategy development, employee engagement, and room for exploration and innovation and more training. So those are all things that we either are just scratching the surface or haven't even begun to touch. So if communications is not your top priority, all of your other priorities are at risk. That's Bob Aronson, communications consultant. So again, I understand you guys have a lot weighing. Infrastructure is incredibly important to our community, but I want you also to consider the importance of communications within our organization. So thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. I know I threw a lot at you. Yes. Yes, Mr. Alt?
Yes. Since this is a work session, I want to separate policy decisions from just factual. So there's been discussion recently about having surveys go out to the public on different things that judge what they do. And then there's been discussion about some of the potential weaknesses of doing that, some of the problems that happen. So how do you make sure that the people who are responding are actually residents, they don't have to actually be voters, residents of Southport, and how do you ensure that? Do you do it by, if an email comes in, another name can't come in under the same email to vote twice for a topic? Are there safeguards to be able to do that, to limit it only to the people that live within the city limits?
Participating, absolutely. No, that is an excellent question. And I've actually been doing research on some civic engagement tools that are utilized by government entities. And so all of those same challenges that you just mentioned are ones that any municipality or larger government agency is going to experience. So these platforms that are meant for government communication with their communities have a lot of stuff built in. Now, I've only done this much research, and to answer your question effectively, specifically, I'll need to do this much research. But I have engaged with one company in particular that has an extraordinary tool that would be available to us. Plus, the bonus to this particular company is they have, I forget what they call it, but it's like a hand holder, if you will, for the person who is going to be putting this out and putting this program together. So I would have somebody on that side that would stick by my side as we get things kicked off and launched and help us to structure things in the way that we were most comfortable with. But there's a lot of features, certainly polling and surveying, but there are idea boards, there's our ability to tell a much better, deeper story through anything that goes through development services or public works, because we can tell a whole story and we can use visuals, we can use videos, and we own that dialogue, right?
So the off-the-shelf stuff that you have available now, I'm taking from your conversation, you do not feel has all the safeguards that these potential other vendors with government programs would have.
Absolutely.
So we're not ready today to do this.
No, we would need to put in place the proper tool to be able to do this in the most secure and most effective way, and that would require a bit of an investment.
So the question I have is that when time permits and you got 4,000 other things that you're doing here, is what does that cost? And then what is the manpower obligation to keep that up? Because with the staff that you have, if we just keep piling on, and with the same staff, eventually you can't do it.
You are
So-
correct.
So sometime, Randy, could we look into how that might look like? Because I'm really kind of a big fan of trying to figure out how we get more citizen input other than a single person sitting in the audience here. And some of them would be able to do that from their home, but I do want to make sure that we're not having, Wilmington voting on something that impacts us and they have no impact on. So I want to have controls on
From
that.
my understanding, and again, I haven't gone through all of the logistic steps, I've just been evaluating the features, basically, and costs. But people do have to subscribe and register for the tool before they're allowed to engage in the tool that I'm talking about. So that right there would put in a degree of a firewall, if you will. To your question about cost, what I'm looking at right now is about $7,000 to $8,000 a year. And from a manpower perspective, we would need a facilitator, and I would very much love to do that. But we would need help from other departments. Like Thomas would need to help structure messaging around his department, and Tom or any of the other
Well,
departments.
the people that wanted to use it would have to craft the message, and I'm
Correct.
assuming the communications people would then make it a little prettier, or more,
Yes.
or more condensed, or concise, maybe is the right word.
Right.
But I wouldn't expect the communications people to be the subject matter experts
Oh,
on
no,
every
no, no.
topic that was going to go down the road. you know.
Right. We just facilitate the messaging and
Right.
make sure that it's cohesive and pretty.
Create the message, you make sure. it
No,
gets
you
out.
don't
And
want
so-
me creating messages.
And so this is an important part of how we have dialogue with our citizens. That really is, but I don't want to focus just on what we don't have. I'd like to really focus also on what you have created. This is amazing. This whole workshop today is just awesome, amazing, fantastic, whatever adjective. I don't have enough adjectives for it, and I mean that sincerely, because Lisa, you will remember this when we were in Indian Trail Tree and we had a situation. First Lady was there with me, and we were having a meet the mayor, and we had an issue, and y'all couldn't decide which one was going to tell me how bad this was. And so Tish said, "You better tell him. He won't believe me." And so that was really our first, as you so aptly say, reactive crisis. And then but we met that challenge, and I
Right.
appreciate you and Randy, and now Elena. And we have gone from a minimal message, no criticism, but the technology was not there. So you have to compare where we were in 2019 to where we are now. And this was what we started talking about in 2020. And now you see 2 years later, this is just phenomenal. And for those that, haven't been as involved, or, I mean, the updates that we've put out, and quietly working in the visitor center upstairs, sometimes weekly, putting a message out, and Randy and Lisa, and I just can't thank them enough for what you've done for the city, and this program today, and the tablet. I mean, it's phenomenal. It really is. So I'm just very pleased.
Thank
very,
you.
very,
And you
very
actually
pleased.
triggered two important things that I wanted to say. One is from a roles and responsibility and staffing thing. One thing to keep in the back of your mind is Miss Sharon is going to be retiring in July. She's working part-time right now, and she's been working to transition with Elena. So right now, Elena is straddling this building and all of the event activity here. She's been assisting me far more than just the quarter I'm supposed to have of her time. And she's also been leaning in to the tourism side. And so when Miss Sharon leaves in July, Elena is going to fully step into that assistant director of tourism role and own the community building, which leaves us back to one head count for communications. So just as an update for that. And the other thing is that tool I'm talking about, you can do Q&A sessions right online, and people can participate real time.
So I think that's something we really need to put in our budget as we get to budget season, make sure that you have that in yours. And I think that will be one of the missing pieces, because, you know, we have public comment, they come and talk and say, why are we not talking back? Well, that's not the time or the place for it. So with this, I think there's unlimited time for dialogue in that regard if we put this in place. And I just think that's very important. Any other questions for Ms. Anderson?
I don't really have a question, but I have a comment. Back when I was hired in June of 2020, some of the tasks that you put before me was to look at FEMA specifically and improve our organizational performance. I sincerely believe that in order to have a high-performing organization, the basic building block is communication. So this is a very important element of our process, and it cannot go unrecognized. I think her saying, her quote at the very end, when you don't, can you talk the quote at the very end, the last one? It's just so important.
Apparently not. Yes, if communications is not your top priority, then all of your other priorities are at risk.
And I know that Randy and Lisa and Elena have all worked very diligently on this. The mayor and I specifically had a conversation the late fall, earlier this year, about that there was a tremendous need to improve communication, and I tasked these two departments with taking care of that, and they've really done a phenomenal job. And I'd like to say thank you. Y'all have done a fantastic job.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time today. Any other questions? You probably are hungry. Yes.
Yeah, I've just got one thing, because based on just everything you've said, we're also brand stewards on behalf of the city, and I just want to make sure that you're comfortable reaching out to us to have us help reinforce and support, better communications with the citizens. How can we, as the point person, as the public information officer, and the website has all the events and keeps all that information going out, to make sure that we're reinforcing your communication.
Right. Now, that's an excellent point. And as we move forward, depending on how we structure our tools and we get some of these very basic standardization things in place, then we need to be thinking about, where, aside from the board meetings, do you have a voice? How can you help support, and have unified messaging so that we're all speaking the same speak? But that's an excellent question, and we need to build that into our standards and our processes. Thank you. Anything else? All right. Thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. You guys have been so patient. I hope you have a lovely day. All you.
All right. Thank you so much. This has been a fantastic workshop. I think we have a plan to, as we move forward, in particular in communications, and I think there are ways where, the aldermen, or you have your wards, and you need to keep them informed. And so I'm sure she will build that into this dialogue, give and take with the citizens. We have our meeting on, a regular Board of Aldermen meeting on Thursday. Hopefully I'll be here on time. And I look forward to that meeting as well. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mayor Pro Tem, is there a second? Second. Mr. Allen, all in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.